Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to another episode of Hollywood Backlot with Lou and you. My name is VashSky. I'm going to be host of today's ceremonies. And with me, well, it's the one, it's the only, it's LW, or Lou Wasserman's ghost.
I hope there's only one. I would hate to run into my doppelganger out there somewhere.
Could you imagine two Lou's? Oh,
that
no.
would be two Lou's, Lautrec. Anyway, I'd have to be shorter and more of an artist. But,
well,
see, the thing people don't think about with him was being short like that was a good thing when you were in front of Can-Can girls, because the view was considerably better than it was for the tall guys. Anyway, I don't know why I think of these things. They come out of my head.
Oh, Lou.
We had a ball. The genre guys did a James Bond movie, and it occurred to us that with Hangry and I both being in these circles, we should have figured out a way to animate them coming across the screen with the Bond theme and the gun being pulled and the blood dripping down, because we're in these circles, but we couldn't manage it.
Oh, man. Oh, that would have been something right there. Well, the genre guys is doing some amazing stuff right there. By the way, I have a request come in.
Oh?
Yeah.
Oh,
so
tell me it isn't Highlander 2 again.
No Highlander 2. No Highlander 2. But it's a genre that the genre guys have embarked on very little, and that's horror. It's the brain that wouldn't die.
The brain that wouldn't die. Out of all the horror gin joints in all the world, you had to walk into that one. My God.
Well, no, bringing the what is it? The eclectic to the masses. Am I right?
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Well, we'll see. I'll run it past the committee, as they say, and we'll see what happens.
Cool. Very, very cool.
I did recommend a very spooky movie that we'll probably get on the list. Have you ever seen a movie called Seconds?
No, I haven't.
Oh, Rock Hudson, and it's John Randolph, really, and he's an old man, and he's tired of his life, and he's not feeling well. And this outfit called Seconds approaches him. And if he gives them a lot of money, they will, through the magic of plastic surgery and other medical enhancements, turn him into a young man again, into a whole new person. And theoretically, he can do things right that he did wrong, and everything will be swell. It does not end well. Because he screws his whole life up again, and it's really not a spoiler. He goes back to him and says, "Can we do it again?" Sure. And what they're doing is using him for parts for the next guy. How's that for spooky, huh?
Wow.
Yeah, you got to go watch that sometime. It's Seconds, it's called.
Very cool.
Anyway.
Speaking of seconds, looks like Ruby Hoof is giving us a couple more seconds here via a super sticker. Thank you so much for the $4.
Thank you. Thank you indeed. That was generous. Yeah. As they say, I give to the charity of the Little Sisters of San Andreas. I'm generous to a fault. Anyway.
Oh, boy, Lou. You just got them all, don't you?
The oldies are the goodies, and when you outlive everybody else who remembers them, they're newies for everybody else, you see.
Well, that's a very good point. We're going to be talking about some oldies that are newies here in just a moment right here, but thank you so much for Behoove for that and the cup of coffee with that super sticker. Very, very cool. Speaking of oldies, newies, well, I guess that's what the Mission Impossible franchise has done. We've been talking about this quite a bit here. And so again, don't want to belabor the point, but Tom Cruise did just release a little bit more footage of the stunts in this incredible film. This time, parachutes on fire.
And they broke a Guinness record or something with this, right?
I think so. They filmed this sequence 16 times. So let's go ahead and watch
16 times, and what do you get? Another flaming parachute and deeper in debt. See? Anyway.
Let's watch this a little bit here. This has audio. I just removed the music.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to be deploying. If this is twisted while it's burning, I'm going to be spinning and burn. I have to kick out of the twist and then ignite within 10 seconds.
Start soaking the parachute.
We're going to submerge the parachute into the avgas, soak up the fuel. So when the parachute opens and ignites it, it'll hold fuel and explode.
For this shot, what are we looking for?
It's quite literally establish the objects in your hand and burn the parachute. The more up we're looking, the more the burn we'll get.
Yep. We're going to be real smart. I'm not saying be risky. We don't take risks, obviously.
Yeah.
We're going to drop me in the middle of the air from several 100,000 feet with a burning parachute, but we don't take risks.
You're going to have to step for this and look up and ignite it.
Okay, let's go.
And you understand that what they're talking about is Cruise is the cameraman because he's shooting it from his point of view.
Right, exactly. You could see the camera stuck to him right there in some of those shots. Man, that is that is pretty intense. That's pretty crazy. So I thought I'd share that with everybody. Some really, really cool stuff. And
when he said they were using avgas, that's an interesting choice because it's much more volatile than plain old ordinary gasoline or a lot of other accelerants they could have used. But I guess in a way that makes sure that it goes up and not out, and therefore away from him. But anyway,
man, pretty cool stuff. And apparently, Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning has been doing very well at the box office, particularly in those PLFs or premium large format screens. Tom Cruise keeps running in IMAX as Mission Impossible: Final Reckoning reaches $69.1 million globally, 38.1 million overseas, and 31 million at the US in IMAX screens alone on the third weekend. So keeping a film like this in IMAX for this length of time has been, I think, very successful, at least with some theaters that can actually manage it and do it. So that's very, very cool. Apparently it's not giving up its PLFs, or at least the IMAX screens, until How to Train Your Dragon.
And because of that, the things that follow it can't get them.
Right,
and
exactly.
I'm speaking of Ballerina here.
Oh,
if
yes.
Ballerina could have gotten more PLF screens, they would have done much, much better. But they just aren't available. So
they just aren't available. Woo! We need more PLFs. We need more premium screens.
Well, if you say so.
Well,
we need more good movies. That's what we need more of. Everything else is extraneous.
Fair point. Strong hold at the box office despite Ballerina releasing, but as Lou mentioned right there, a lot of that is because, it retained those screens. And again, next week it will lose those IMAX screenings with How to Train Your Dragon when that is released in theaters. You can kind of see its trajectory right here. It's a little middle of the road when it comes to expectations. We would have liked to have seen this on the higher end, only because of the large box office associated with it. But nevertheless,
I got to tell you, though, listen, I admire these people, Cruise and McQuarrie, enormously. I think they make some fantastic movies. But the other day, you know what I watched, just because I was in the mood, was Spectre.
Yeah.
They had that scene where they're chasing down the mountainside between an airplane and the cars and Batista, and was every bit as exciting as this wing walking stuff, but it carried the story forward. It wasn't, let's do exposition for 3 hours and then we'll give you some smash. And they should have, of course, stopped with that movie because it had the right happy ending for the Daniel Craig Bond. And then they made that awful, terrible.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Years later. But Spectre's an almost perfect movie. It really is.
Really?
It really, really is. And I'd forgotten how good it was. And go watch it again and you'll see what I mean. As far as mixing the effects and the fight scenes and the up close and personal and the big spectacle with a plot that works and with locations that work and everything goes together and you're not standing around waiting for anything to happen, Anyway, yeah, I think it's pretty spectacular. I really do.
Wow. I thought Spectre was one of the lower, what is it, Daniel Craig, James Bond movies on the list.
Oh, I don't know. I don't think so. And like I say, it really should have been his finale. It really should have. But
yeah,
they go to the well when the water is gone.
At least it's in the safe, comfortable hands of Amazon, studios.
Have you seen? By the way, the genre guys we recorded last night, and I was not aware of, but they called my attention to, and I watched the trailer for this new video game of Bond that's coming out from Amazon's people.
I did not.
It looks kind of good. There's things about it I don't understand. It's supposed to be going back to, very, very young James Bond and how he got into the game. But it's using music from On Her Majesty's Secret Service, which is bizarre to hear that theme coming at you again. But I forget what it's called now. James Bond, what's it called?
It's what is it, James Bond First Light? Is that right?
That's it, First Light. Anyway, when you get a chance, look at that trailer. It's kind of interesting.
Wow.
But I know Lauren said he was very interested in playing it when it came out. He said, "Well, you're not a gamer, but for me," I said, "I'm a gamer if something's worth the game, so who knows?" But I'll be curious to see how that turns out. But it's Amazon's first, thanks a lot, Barbara, but go away effort. And obviously it's been in the works for quite a while. So should be interesting.
Oh, I'm very excited. Let's see how this. I mean, look, I remember GoldenEye when that came out on the Nintendo 64 back in the day. I mean, that literally like saved that game console in a lot of ways.
And then but talk about game consoles. Did you see what happened at GameStop with the new Switch thing?
I did not. Go ahead.
For some reason, they have a policy of stapling your receipt to the box when you get out of the store. They were going through into the screen. Lots of people got home and found out that they had staples in their LCD screens on their brand new $250 toy.
Oh man,
that'll spoil your whole damn day, won't it?
That's tough right there. Well, hopefully no screens were hurt in the making of this video production.
There you go. Yeah, there you go.
Speaking of, well, maybe not staples, but action. Well, we got to talk about Ballerina. You brought it up before right here. Ballerina came below industry expectations, but still scores biggest debut for Lionsgate since November 2023's The Hunger Games prequel at the U.S. box office. That's the one starring Rachel Zegler, I believe. That's good.
Yeah.
The R-rated spinoff starring Emma de Armas had a $25 million 3-day opening weekend versus John Wick, 14.4, Kill Bill's 22.2, Rios is 26.3, The Fall Guys 27.7, and Birds of Prey $33 million. Among the John Wick franchise, fourth biggest opening, almost doubling the first John Wick's $14.4 million. Not far from John Wick Chapter 2's $30.4, although way under John Wick Chapter 3's $56.8 and John Wick Chapter 4's $73.8. The big problem, as it's been the case quite often with several films lately, it's the $90 million production price tag, not including marketing. And apparently, at least from one outlet, they're saying that doesn't include reshoots either.
Well, apparently this movie was supposed to come out a year ago, and they decided it didn't have enough John Wick in it, and Keanu Reeves was busy, and so it delayed it, and then they wanted to delay it so that he was free to do the press tour, and they thought it was worth waiting, and it probably does better with more of him in it, but I don't know. Speaking of genre guys, we were talking about maybe doing one of the Wick movies. And I thought, I like it. And I think it was Hangry said, how about doing number 2? I heard you like that one. I liked all of them. But then I started, there's a experience of the Continental opening in Vegas, like these escape room things and the Universal horror things. And then there's this, and then there's the Continental. And it's like and then there's another John Wick movie coming. And I said, let's just stay away from it until they figure out what the hell they're going to do and get all their various splinter universes together. Because right now it's kind of let's try this, let's try that, let's try this.
Yeah, it's Lionsgate having like one franchise,
and therefore let's go for all the gusto that we can. Exactly.
Correct. And by the way, that is even outside of the kind of the little bit of a reviewers or critics scandal that happened before this film even came out. You'll remember this from That Park Place. Ballerina review embargo only blocks critical comments. Lionsgate wants good vibes only for John Wick spinoff. This by Marvin Montanaro, May 23rd, 2025. You can see right here. I got to hand it to Ballerina distributors. Lionsgate, most studios don't have the stones to come out and say, quote, you're not allowed to tweet about it, but only if it's positive. Sorry. You're
Yeah,
allowed to
and
tweet about it.
I got to tell you, I read that notice and I thought they were people criticizing it were overstated. If you're planning to review it, critical social sentiment and formal reviews are embargoed which all are embargoed until then on other movies. So it's like, well, we'll let you say good things a week or two early. All right. So that's what they want to do. And they'll either, what it does is it makes you, especially with some of the, how can I say less reliable pixie dusters? And I don't mean that in a Disney sense, but in a general, homers who want goodies, because none of them are reliable. But it makes the ones that are going to give it a positive no matter what anyway, even less credible because they're being given an advantage. So I don't know. I remember when movies came out and they got reviewed and you went to see them or you didn't. I always quote one of my favorite scenes in the movies, which is from a movie called The Happy New Year, the original French one, not the Peter Falk remake, with Lino Ventura. And he's an old crook and he falls in love with this woman who runs an antique store next door to the Van Cleef and Arpels jewelry store he's plotting to rob. And she invites him for midnight mass and for dinner afterwards at her house. And all of her young elitist French yuppie pals are at this dinner and they're talking about movies. And this was Lelouch's way of kind of giving a dig to the supercilious pseudo-intellectual guys. And all these guys turn to him and they say, well, did you read the reviews of such and such? And he said, no. And they said, well, don't you read reviews? And he says, no. And she's at one end of the table. He's at the other. All these guys are in between. He's giving her dirty looks like, why did you invite me here with all these morons? And the guy says, and he's genuinely shocked. He says, but if you don't read reviews, how do you choose a film to see? And he looks past them straight at her. And he says, just like I choose women, I take risks. And gets up and leaves. It's one of the great little moments in a wonderful movie, by the way. Le Bon Année, The Happy New Year. Caper flick and a romance and all in one. And if you haven't seen it, by God, go see it.
Go see it for sure.
Yeah. Anyway, but I just love that. The same way I choose women, I take risks.
That's a great line.
Of course, it was years ago when movies didn't cost $20 and popcorn didn't come in plastic buckets for another $30 and all the rest of this craziness. So, it was a different
30. I mean, Lou, have you seen the new Fantastic Four popcorn bucket?
You mean the Galactus head?
Uh-huh. Do you know how much that was worth?
Yeah.
$80. It's $80.
It's like you're buying something to show all your friends what a sucker you are. It's a badge of insanity. I remember I'm old enough and old-fashioned enough to remember when you got popcorn at the movies for the popcorn. Silly me. God,
that is
that crazy thing. And if was it, I guess it was Jack Kirby. He did all those funny boomerang hats back in the day. Can you imagine if he drew that back then? If he ever was thinking somebody's going to make a popcorn bucket shaped like this, how amazed he would have been. How Stan Lee would have been just amazed. Galactus popcorn bucket. God,
that is just really, really something right there. Well,
I just want Silver Surfer to scream out, "To me, my butter," instead of my board.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Well, apparently, I don't know how well $80 popcorn buckets are going to go. We'll see what the market can hold. Apparently, the market rejected Ballerina at the box office. It's very, very interesting.
I'm not so sure that's so true. Bombs. I don't think it really bombed. I think it didn't do as well as they'd like it to.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sorry. I don't think it's a failure. I think it's not as big a hit as they hoped.
Yeah.
But it certainly, I think the numbers it did were what? Equivalent of about like the second John Wick movie?
Well, that's true. But the second John Wick movie...
was a while ago, and there's been inflation, and I understand all that. But I'm just saying, it isn't like it's not Snow White.
Yeah.
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 It's not these, we're defining failure up by calling this a failure. It's not, it didn't take over. But, and again, what we said earlier, the fact that it didn't have as many large format theaters to go into because Mission Impossible was holding them. And
So John Wick Chapter 2, it grossed $174 million worldwide against a $40 million budget. So it's like less than half of what this is, and apparently it doesn't include reshoots. It certainly doesn't include marketing. So I get that. I think that the hunger for this franchise, I think, really rests with Keanu Reeves himself and the quality execution from the original filmmakers. Outside of that, I think it's going to be difficult to spin off.
I haven't seen the film. I watched Culture's review of it, and he thought it was great.
Oh, really?
And if he thinks it's great, he said not great cinema, but fun action, delivered what it promised, and also, I read somewhere else, I forget who, fought against the whole "I'm a little girl, but I can beat up 280-pound monsters," and they basically tell her you can't, so you better learn how to shoot them. Is what this movie is about. And I thought, good for them. They're not doing the whole the girl boss can beat the bad guys thing all by herself just because she's female. Good. So that's good. So I'm interested in seeing it. I'm not interested enough to go to the theater, but then it takes more than a lot of that to have me put up with the experience of going to the theater, to tell you the truth. Especially, did you see the story about how, oh boy, hey, AMC, we're going to add some more commercials.
Oh, we're going to get to that story in just a moment.
Because,
that's on the list.
Man, that's really going to inspire audiences to show up, because
I don't like that move. We'll go ahead and let's go ahead and get to the super chat on Ballerina itself while we're still talking about Jan Monroe with $2. Thank you so much for that. I got to get ads for Moo's movie there, no ballerina.
I think it went on to explain that she'd gotten a lot of stuff for Snow White and a lot of stuff for a lot of other movies, but got next to no algorithmic push for this. So maybe that's part of their problem, is that they aren't executing on the
marketing
promotion side. So
anyway. It did get lost. I mean, I had to be reminded of it.
Honestly, I understand it's part of the plot. I think it's a terrible name.
Yeah.
I think it's an awful, terrible, awful title.
I think Anthony D'Alessandro actually said something about that. It was like, look, Ballerina doesn't necessarily inspire action, and I think that's a fair point. So, tough. It's tough stuff. We'll be keeping track of this, and I still think the John Wick franchise is fantastic. I think the Continental stuff doing in Vegas is awesome.
I'd really like to go to that, but I don't want to go to Vegas, so I guess I'll skip it. I'm done with Vegas and all that stuff. I
guess it will be skipped. I want to go ahead and bring up this last story about the specific box office and the films coming out. Lilo Stitch here crosses $770 million globally. Budget was $100 million. I don't want to get into that necessarily. I want to get into this part about it. The top 10 markets at the global box office for Lilo and Stitch. So at the very top, we have US and Canada, 333 million, followed by Mexico at 56, the UK at 42, France at 30, Brazil 28, Germany 23, China 22, Italy 20, Spain 19, and Argentina with $14 million.
Well, see, I would like to compare those numbers to the original animated movie and see if those characters are particularly beloved in the places where it did high, or people just went because they wanted to go. There's that whole carryover thing going on here, and for some reason, certain characters click in certain places. It's like when we saw that story about, we're going to do The Lion King and Up at Paris Disney. Were those movies particularly popular in France or in Europe, or were they just, that's the next thing? Because with the fact that they decided not to do as they originally were going to do, Another Galaxy's Edge over there, might say something about how they tracked the popularity of those characters in those territories. Now, granted, you don't have to be from France to go to Paris, and you don't have to, and indeed, they hope you come from Germany and everywhere else. But you see what I mean? There's certain characters that, for whatever reason, I mean, I know she's Polynesian, she's not Mexican, but I can see Lilo being popular in Mexico,
Yeah.
and Brazil,
Yep.
and but I don't know.
Well, to your point, Latin America really did show up for this film, which is I think is a big deal. The Latin American market has grown exponentially, I would say, in the last 5-10 years here in terms of its share of the market when it comes to international.
But
box
will it be
office
big
fare.
enough for one-eyed Elio at $300 million?
I don't think so.
That's the question
right there.
To be or not to be? That is the
I
question.
can't get international figures on the original Lilo and Stitch Chosen 2.
I'm not saying we should all of a sudden. I'm just saying it would be interesting in kind of a anecdotal sort of way to see how much of it is based on, oh, it's a new Disney movie and it's cute and it looks like fun, and how much of it is based on, I remember I loved that movie and so did all my friends. Let's go see it.
I'll say this about.
I don't know.
Well, to your point, though, I mean, look at this. In North American box office, it was 145 back in 2002, but at the international box office, and this was pretty early in kind of the international box office being a much larger player in this game. This was $100 million, so it did really well overseas. I know Japan really embraced it because of its Hawaiian theme and the proximity of that region to that area. Of the
I don't know if
right
that's. See, I just think Stitch is a very Japanesey sort of character.
You think so?
To my feeling, I can see him being very popular there. In the same way that silly Duffy character group is.
It's interesting
I know that's
because
a strange comparison because he's nothing like them, but still, it's just a feeling I have. I can't back it up with any cultural tracking, but
I can tell you right now, the merchandise for Lilo and Stitch, especially with this new film coming out, has just exploded on the scene. I know also too that Aulani, for example, has an assortment of different
they would
Duffy characters. Yeah, because the Japanese audience that goes to that resort on occasion right there. So, it's
and isn't that funny if you look at it in the long term and the history of our relationship with Japan, and golly.
It is very interesting.
Well, it's like I told you, we just did You Only Live Twice, which is the James Bond movie in Japan, which was shot in, I think it was 89. Anyway, 30 years after the war. And Japan was, finally emerging from that whole experience. And it was kind of a travelogue. And indeed, Lauren said the part he found most interesting was the Japanese cultural stuff they did in the movie. They go to a sumo tournament and the neon lights in the streets of Tokyo. And, so I guess, just like Levi's and other American things transcend the world culturally, jazz music, the movies do that too. So anyway,
the movies do that too.
Go do that movie that you do so well. Yeah. See, Jan Monroe is talking in the chat and that's what I meant. I should have said that Stitch has kind of an anime vibe to him. Anyway, I
will agree with that. Just very, very interesting how that all is shaking out right here. But you brought it up earlier, and we have to get into this. This is not the greatest development, at least for exhibition in the United States. Hollywood Reporter, AMC theaters to run commercials ahead of movies, along with trailers. Pre-show will go on and on as the exhibition giant will introduce, quote, a platinum spot advertising window on July 1st alongside film trailers before tentpoles begin. This by Eaton Vlessing, June 4, 2025.
I think it is.
AMC theaters has agreed. Oh, go ahead, please.
I think the pronunciation is Etan. It's kind of a foreign version of Ethan, but
I see.
Etan Hunt. Anyway.
Excuse me, Etan. AMC Theaters has agreed to show pre-show advertising before features begin as part of a new deal with National Cinemedia, the Hollywood Reporter has confirmed. Starting July 1st, AMC will run a, quote, platinum spot with pre-movie commercials alongside traditional film trailers that play for audiences. And AMC and NCM, the in-theater advertising company, will share revenues from the new pre-movie advertising window. AMC in a statement explained why it has overcome initial reservations to now follow rival exhibitors and start showing pre-movie advertising. Quote, while AMC was initially reluctant to bring this to our theaters, our competitors have fully participated for more than 5 years without any direct impact to their audience. This is a strong indication that this NCM pre-show initiative does not negatively influence movie-going habits, AMC said. The new deal.
And they're wrong. And let me tell you why they're wrong.
Please.
Does it keep me from going if I want to see the movie? No. Does it keep me from going to what I'm kind of 50-50 on by saying, well, it's one more reason not to go at home when I watch it later? I don't have to watch commercials? Yes. In other words, I don't think it's relevant to the show that it's on. It's relevant to the general movie-going experience being degraded by one more element. You know? It's like maybe you wouldn't not go to Disney World when they pulled the dining plan. But when they pulled the free bus ride and when they pulled the extra magic hours and they pulled the this, and it compounds on your general impression of the experience. I mean, I'm old enough to remember when I went to England for the first time in my life when I was 16 years old and was shocked that there were commercials in the movie theaters back then because there was no such thing in America. It never happened. Never, ever, ever happened. But things have changed, you know.
Well, and things do change.
It says is recently renew revenues by bolstering their food and beverage offerings, meaning charging more. Is that bolstering them? Is it making them better? Is the popcorn different because it's in a $80 bucket in the shape of the head of a guy?
Yeah, I mean it's.
Well, look, and let's take that for a minute. Let's go back to good old Galactus and his magic popcorn head.
Sure.
I know they have little lights and they have more to them than just a molded piece of plastic that holds popcorn. But God, the markup.
Yeah.
How many do you have to sell to pay for the tooling? 2? 12? 200? 2,000?
Mm-hmm.
It's an astounding. It's a bigger markup than there is on the popcorn inside of it.
Yeah. Maybe, yeah. I mean, that's
you don't
astounding.
you don't have to sell many of them for it to be very, very profitable. In fact, we had a link somewhere to the whole profit side of popcorn buckets. And anyway, isn't it interesting that all these other things, the commercials, the bolstering of the food and beverage stuff, the popcorn buckets, whatever, are all happening in a business where the reason you used to go was to see the movie and all this other stuff was secondary. And it's happening at the same time that there are more and more stinker movies coming out.
Yep.
So the theaters can't change the quality of the movies. What are they going to say? Well, we saw the trailer and we don't like this one. We're not going to show it. They can't do that. They have to show it. So the only way they can fight back is on their own turf. And I guess this is how they do it. And I guess we're stuck with it. And I guess, but to say, well, we didn't find it really inhibited the audience. You want to bet? You'll never know how much one more straw breaks the camel's back as far as somebody saying, I'm just not going anymore. I'm waiting till it gets on streaming or till I can rent it or whatever, because I don't need this aggravation.
Well, and I do wonder like what the effects are even outside of like either going or not going, right? You know, trailers are supposed to be promotions for their upcoming film slate. How many people now go late understanding that there's ads?
Or worse, they see the trailer and realize, well, that's one I don't want to see, and that's one I'm not interested in, and that's one that looks like a stinker. That's a double-edged sword.
That's a fair point. It's a fair point, but I just think that people are going to go later and later because that's what we've been seeing. I know when I was in the theater recently with Lilo and Stitch and maybe Mission Impossible as well, you know, people really didn't show up to see that film until very, very late, either when the last Coca-Cola or who is that actress that Nicole Kidman, is that right? Has her opening spiel either right at that moment or even into the film because they kind of understand that there's 30 minutes of trailers before this.
It's been so long since I've been to a regular old theater to see something because I've been going to for the big movies to the AMC, not the AMC, the Aquarium's IMAX downtown. Did they remember there was a deal where they made it, I guess it was at AMC. They made it into its own little show. It was kind of like a ripoff of Entertainment Tonight, and they had hosts, and they gave you 3 stories, and they were all really basically ads for movies, as if that made it better somehow. And they, get here 20 minutes before, don't miss, I forget what they called it. On the other hand, if you get there late, you don't have, see, now there's another question. It just occurred to me. I used to want to get there early in order to pick out the seat I wanted, but now that they're selling the seats individually on a map, not so. That's good.
I remember this hitting the waiver wire. Connecticut lawmaker proposes bill requiring movie theaters to list actual start times after commercials. It's like, hey.
Now think about this for a minute.
Please.
State senator, right? Which means, first of all, he doesn't even get voted on by the whole teeny-weeny state of Connecticut, but just by one little district of it. Mm-hmm. And he thinks this will get him reelected. Not solving poverty or traffic or all the things that state senators are supposed to be doing, but vote for me. I made him tell you what time to show up at the movies.
It's the real issues, Lou. It's an abuse of people's time. And his
why doesn't he tell them that they can't show crappy movies? Because that's the abuse of people's time.
Yeah. Require that each advertisement or listing include and separately list the scheduled start time, the movie trailers and advertisements that precede the advertised or listed movie, and the advertised or listed movie itself. So, I mean, it's just, I find it very, very interesting, this kind of changing landscape here, especially with exhibition, in a way that I don't think a lot of people predicted 5 years ago.
Oh, God. I've told the story before about when I was growing up, our phone number was one number off from Grauman's Chinese Theater. Mm-hmm. And my old man used to have fun with the phone calls we'd get. And when they called and said, is Mary Poppins playing there? He said, no, but if I see her, I'll tell her to come right home. Yeah, the Chinese.
And you can
Jack
look
Nicholson, Jane Fonda. Who are they? I thought they had movie stars there.
Back when stars were stars.
Charles Boyer. Let's see, Joan Crawford. John Barrymore. And
I tried to get as many of them as possible, but
you did good. But it's funny how the yellow of the I wonder if they made that just for that theater and sort of oranged the airplane in the poster because it matches the columns. James Mason for Prince Valiant. See, he knew how to play it. They made the point of the movie that they were there with, not just themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But
a very transformative landscape indeed. We'll be talking about just how transformative it will be getting here in just a moment. I want to go ahead and highlight this story as well. This is from the Hollywood Reporter. Hollywood incentive bill passes the California State Assembly without $750 million specified for now. This is by Katie Kenny, I believe. Hollywood incentive.
Yeah.
Yes. Advocates emphasize the bill's focus on middle-class jobs, but Assembly member Carl DeMaio said it represented an ineffective solution that papered over larger state problems. The bill set to dramatically expand California's incentives for film and television production companies to shoot in-state has passed the California State Assembly, albeit without a mention of the $750 million program cap promised by Governor Gavin Newsom. Legislators voted 73-1 on Tuesday to pass AB.
So, in other words, the Assembly voted for it, but they decided to hold DeMaio.
Apparently.
he was the one who said no, huh? Okay.
I suppose so. They voted to pass AB 1138 and sent it to the Senate with Assembly member Carl DeMaio of San Diego representing the sole, quote, no vote. The vote comes after the state Senate passed a similar bill focused on the state's entertainment tax credit program earlier in the day, with the governor's promised cash infusion absent from the amended legislation. The move adds momentum to union and studio-backed attempts to provide a shot in the arm to filming in California, even as the state faces significant budget deficit concerns. Newsom has pledged support to one of California's signature industries, even while existing or proposed state services are likely to be cut or pulled back as a result of the budget situation. Lou, your thoughts on all this?
Oh, you know how I feel about these things. All of the actual economic studies that have been done of all of these incentive programs for movies, for stadiums, all of them are based on the idea that A, if we have more employment in our state because we're paying people to do it here, it will come back to us in the form of individual taxes and commerce and all the rest of that. And it never does. Never. Now, if you have a state where everything else is being managed well, and therefore you have a surplus or you can afford to take the hit, maybe it's worth it, politically, certainly. But with this, they're making the point, the state's broke and you're going to give away more revenue? Guess what? Someplace elsewhere, they'll have to tax it more. And if they raise the already insanely high state and local taxes in California, I wonder how happy those people that suddenly have a job that didn't, but then see most of the income going away in the form of taxes and fees and all the other stuff they have to pay to live there. The other day, Pro said to me, someday we ought to just take a trip back to your native LA and go to all your favorite restaurants and do all the stuff you used to do. And I told him I have absolutely zero desire to do it. Because as much as things were good then, that was 7 years ago that I left. Yeah. And I have no way of knowing if any of it's any good anymore. And there we go. All Black Lives Matter, said the sign on the post there. Yeah, sure. And that's right in front of the place where the police routinely break up fights between competing supermen and Wonder Women who are trying to get their pictures taken with the tourists and feel like others are invading their turf.
It's just not the same town it used to be, and it's not the same state it used to be.
It used to be great. It used to be amazing. It used to be, the golden dream. And of course, its big period of growth was right after World War II, when all these people who had passed through there on their way to the Pacific said, "I don't think I want to go back to snow and darkness and all that other stuff where I grew up in the Midwest or in the East. Maybe I'll stay right here." Right. And now it's like people who were born there, like me, second generation born there, like me, are saying, "Get out now." I think I told you when I moved here to the Southeast, and I thought, God, I'm in a strange place for me. And the kid from Geek Squad who came to install my TV sets on the wall was from like the next town over for where I used to live. Mm-hmm. I thought, how the hell did he get here? Well, lots of people did because they figured it out. We could talk about this for hours, but this is a wonderful country and people can vote with their feet.
Yeah.
And these people that are in the biz and are seeing their incomes vaporize as shows go away, they can move to the places where the shows are too. So
that's a very good point. If you're from California's perspective, right, and you want to maintain this industry, maintain this hub of the entertainment industry that's largely going away, what other choice do you have? Do you think, Liv?
I don't know that you have a choice because you let it get too far.
Yeah,
but the problem is not that you're not supporting the movie industry. The problem is that you're making the cost of just being in any business or industry to live there, to work there, to raise your kids there, too damn high. That's all. People used to do this, as I've told the story several times here, I think, that I used to know grips and electricians and people who would, during the TV season, rent a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment, and they lived, their homes, their families were on the outskirts out beyond Lancaster and Palmdale and like that. And they'd commute into town during the week and then go back home on the weekend for the 20, 25, 30 weeks of making the TV show. Now, where are you going to go? Vegas? Probably. No state income tax. And by the way, you hear this thing, oh, well, no state income tax, but big deal. Mm-hmm. it's a big deal when the state income tax is as high as it is. And I used to laugh because when I'd get the tax forms from the studio, for example, when I was doing a couple of shows over at what's called CBS Radford, which is the old Republic lot in the Valley. And because it's CBS, the tax forms had a spot for the CBS people in New York who paid city income tax. Then, of course, I just left blank because there wasn't that here yet. And I thought, God, how could you live there and you pay the state and the local and the federal and then city? They got a lot of nerve. Well, California for 25, 30 years has been saying, hold my beer. And it's not just your individual taxes. It's the cost of everything you buy and every business you hire who has to put up with it. I think I've told the story, but maybe not here. When we got ready to move to Tennessee, I started comparing ads, and I thought, let me see something that is the same everywhere in America. Not produce, not meat, not things that are local that have to be fresh, whatever. And I settled on a jar, I forget what size, of Skippy peanut butter. Because I said, that's the same whether you're in Wisconsin or Wyoming or Los Angeles. It's the same damn stuff in the same size. And I started comparing the grocery ads in Tennessee to those in Los Angeles. And I found that on the average, a jar of Skippy peanut butter, the same size, same everything, was about $1.40 more in LA. Now you think, well, $1.40, that's not going to break you. Yeah, but if it's on the peanut butter and it's on the jam and it's on the bread and it's on the milk and it's on the, and you've put 20, 30, 40 items in your cart every week when you go to the market and you add that up, and it's not about the cost of making or distributing the product. It's about OSHA and it's about insurance and it's about the taxes that the store is paying. You know, it all adds up.
Well, yeah, and look, I mean, I experience it here with when commuting between Arizona and Palm Springs as regularly as I have. And look, when you cross that state line from Arizona into California, gas goes up by $1.50, and apparently it's going to go up even further, at least 65 cents, and then who knows what happens beyond that. That affects every single price that is incurred within the state of California. Then you look at the grocery store and you go, whoa, holy smokes. Like,
it also happens that
everything more expensive.
I used to know people who lived in a place called, I think it's called Battleground, state of Washington, which is right over the border from Portland, Oregon. And they would do all of their grocery and stuff shopping. I forget which state. I honestly don't remember. But one state had higher sales tax and one state had higher income tax. And they literally, you know, if you bought a car over the line, it cost X amount more. So nobody did. You know, once upon a time, we weren't as consumer savvy as we are now. Once upon a time, we didn't insist that all the ingredients get listed, never mind for money, but for health reasons and all the rest of it. But now we do. And people have been trained to be better consumers.
Right.
And that doesn't just apply to products and services. It applies to government and taxes and fees. And not just, by the way, the amount, but the time. Look at these people who want to rebuild their houses in the Palisades that burned down. And it might take them a year and a half just to get permits for environmental reasons to rebuild the same house on the same footprint with the same basic, how many bedrooms and how many square feet, but everybody along the way. When I was in a very bad fire area and our neighborhood burned down, happily our house was damaged but not destroyed, there was about a 6-week hold on doing anything. Why? There were these great big beautiful pine trees in the property. It was a gated community, and they were not totally killed, but they were so scorched on the outside that they had to be taken down. Do you know how much fighting there was between the city, the state, the environmental people over who got the wood afterwards to sell as firewood? 6 weeks. Well, if it's 6 weeks for that and 8 weeks for this and 10 weeks for that and 2 months for this and a fee and a permit and a inspection, if your whole world grinds to a halt because of that stuff, there's a point at which you say bye.
Well, and this is the interesting thing. So, not to go into this too far, because, well, I haven't simply been prepared for it and can't speak adequately on every single level about this. But Adam Carolla has actually been doing some fantastic work lately, going over like the destruction and everything about it. He recently had this realtor who owns multiple properties in this region right here, and is studying, what is actually going on. And this realtor actually pointed out that to build a new house on this property right here, the cost per square foot simply doesn't make it economically viable,
right?
Given some of these plots of land that are actually there. And so on the one hand, it's like, unless you're rebuilding your house for yourself, unless you have enough capital to do it, will these houses even get rebuilt at all, given the amount of legislative hurdles and
again, it's not just the cost; it's the cost of the time it takes to get through all of the regulatory issues. So so bringing it back to the movies, which is what we're in theory talking about, passing this bill and passing it without the dollars, and passing it when it means giving up revenue that they would get otherwise, and not having a way to make it back. It's strictly a political thing to appease the unions. And as a member and a former officer of several of those unions, I understand that. But the point is, they bill it, they sell it as economics. It's not viable economics. It's politics. It's politics.
Indeed. It's.
But anyway, we so far we've discussed bad politics, bad economics, bad popcorn buckets, bad movies. There must be something good out there.
There is something good, I think.
Hey, before we go any further, we can talk about great music.
That's right.
The jukebox of the week. Wow. There is this woman named Anna Lapwood, who is one of the premier organists of the music world. And the Royal Albert Hall has this monster of an organ. And this is a symphonic rendition of the score from Interstellar by Hans Zimmer. And Anna Lapwood is the soloist, the organist. And if you just want to turn the lights down and turn up the music, gang, this one's going to blow you away. You're just going to love it. It was a wonderful movie, I think. Some people liked it, some people didn't. But wow, the music.
I think it's one of Hans Zimmer's best scores ever.
Yeah.
The way that organ is used and the amazing original sounds that actually come out of it and make that score, make that movie what it is, truly breathtaking. I mean, it's really, really good stuff. So definitely everybody check this out because it's awesome. It's super cool.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It will take your mind off your taxes.
I love the movie as well.
Me too.
So we got good taste, Lou. Got good taste. Also, too, speaking of really, really great taste, and by the way, all of the links to this week's Backlot Jukebox are in both the chat and in the description, so you can listen at your leisure. The other thing I wanted to highlight, so that's really, really pretty good, is this photo that you shared with me, going over or featuring the production setup.
Oh yeah. Was that a great
Disneyland
picture? I just stumbled across that, but that's opening day's preparations. I actually know somebody who was a cameraman that day, and had a lot of things to say about how it went or didn't go. But boy, those were the days.
There's footage of this, by the way, of the setup behind the scenes. So one of the Disney Treasures DVD tins that were released by Leonard Maltin in cooperation with Disney actually featured like this. I don't know what it was. I think it was just put out there for studio executives or something like that. But they actually showed the setup in great detail of Dateline Disneyland, like I think the day before or that morning of or something like that. And it is absolutely impressive. I mean, it's just how they get cameras, in various areas. The park is still being built at that time. And so there's some logistical hurdles that in that regard, it's just absolutely awesome. Very, very cool, and one of the most impressive productions, certainly live, that really ever occurred in the 1950s, and at least in my
wait. Never mind comparing it to other things in the 50s.
Mhm.
Compare it to that, you should pardon the expression, SHIT show that Universal did for Epic. Which I'm still angry about, but it's past news, and I guess we can forget about it. But boy,
outside of those bad interview segments, I think the production
technically was terrible. Yes, it was just the stuff that they shot ahead of time was okay. But the stuff on the day, oh my God! And then even the ahead of time stuff. The blonde influencer lady who was there in Orlando and has some kind of. Who dresses that woman?
Oh,
I mean, God, it was just, oh boy. I don't know. It especially since I tuned it in probably 45 minutes early, and they just had that shot of the logo with the lights changing and playing all of that wonderful, marvelous, talk about great music. Some of that 40 minutes of original music that they recorded just for the fountains and the atmosphere in Celestial Park. And it was so inspiring and so great. And then what did they do? They cut to a crappy commercial for Xfinity. You don't have a phone company sponsor the thing that's supposed to be selling your theme park. It's its own sponsor, for God's sakes. And then they went to these people that, oh, wow. Well, anyway, everybody's heard me bitch about that before, so I'll leave it alone. But it was just embarrassing. It's really bad. Universal does a lot of stuff right, but when they screw up, ooh boy.
Yeah. It's
somebody
not good.
Should have gotten fired. I noticed the blonde girl wasn't there the next day. I guess they fired her right away, huh? But she was hardly the most egregious. But anyway.
I wish I had that video there. I forgot to transfer it onto this device.
Well, whatever.
Before leaving. But suffice to say, folks, it's pretty bad. But Dateline Disneyland back in the day, had a lot of its screw-ups as well. But I would say it was conveyed well enough, certainly back at that time, to get you excited for the park. And so what was it? Was it like 50 million people tuned in, or some crazy number of people tuned in to that broadcast and really were excited for Disneyland and its future? Really
every kid in America said, "Can we go, Mommy? Can we go, Daddy?" And the ones who never went, all those years later when Florida opened, oh, now can we go? It's closer.
Yeah.
And certainly I would say the fact that Disney was involved was good for him because he got all these attractions paid for other people. But the fact that Disney was involved in the New York World's Fair added to its attendance and its attraction to people, because people wanted to see all this stuff they'd heard or read or dreamed about that happened in California originally. My old stomping grounds, quite literally, up there.
Indeed.
Anyway.
Indeed. I thought you'd appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's just goes to show there's a right way and wrong way to do advertisement. Ooh, I think that just about covers everything on this amazing episode of Hollywood Backlot with Lou and you. Lou, what do you got coming on?
Well, the usual stuff. I'm happy to say, for those who were concerned, that my health issues have been solved, I believe. I'm still recuperating, but I had some people with their little probes deep inside me doing strange and wonderful things, and that all went well. So that's good. And the genre guys, of course, it's great to be popular, but now Lauren is doing another show, and so we're used to do one a week, and it'll still be one a week as far as being released. But what we're doing is recording them as every other week double features. So talk about a great double feature. Last night we did You Only Live Twice and Field of Dreams. And boy, talk about two wonderful movies. And it's always interesting to me to find movies that some of the other guys maybe haven't seen, or that I haven't seen. We had a very interesting documentary about this guy, Drew, that did all the great posters. Well, we've got another documentary coming up in a few weeks about pinball and its history. Did you know pinball was banned in the United States for 30 years because they
What?
thought it was evil and gambling, and they destroyed the machines like in Prohibition? I mean, there's all kinds of fascinating history to it. There's also some very weird people who are the ones who hang with it now. I mean, God, they're spooky, some of these guys. But let's just say when you have you have 50 pinball tables in your house and you haven't done the laundry in 6 months and you haven't got a girlfriend, there's something probably interesting about your psychological makeup. But anyway, you'll see that one down the road too. And then, of course, here, you take them and make them even better and show them here. And I want to repeat again something I've been saying a lot, but I don't think it can be said enough. We have some very wonderfully generous people who on the Pro Show are giving away, 50 memberships, 20 memberships, and people get a freebie. And one of the things you get with a membership to the Pro Show is you get to watch the first run of all of these Genre Guys shows. But sometime 30 days or so from then, you'll get a little thing in the mail from YouTube saying, hey, why don't you give us some money? We'll let you keep doing it. We want you to know it's not us begging you for money. It's YouTube automatically wanting you to renew. And it's very valid, and you should. But if you don't get it that way, you get it here 3 months later, right?
Absolutely.
What's the next one coming here?
I had to look it up. I don't know.
You knew I would ask a question like that.
I know, and you ask me every single time, and it's kind of interesting.
Well, it'll be a good movie because we don't do too many stinkers. Once in a while, Tommy pops into one that's a little strange, but
it'll be a great movie. Look, it'll be worth subscribing to the channel for. How about that?
Yeah,
if you haven't
absolutely,
yet,
absolutely.
Definitely hit the button right there.
And as I always say, if you see it on the Pro channel, please give us a comment. Please give us a reaction. But also, if you see it again here 3 months later, how has your opinion changed? Maybe you hadn't seen the movie, but now you have in between because we recommended it. It's interesting to see how your relationship with a film goes. For example, I mentioned that last night we did Field of Dreams. If ever there was a movie that exemplified my concept that you should own the hard copy because you're going to want to watch it again several years down the road and share it with other people in your family and your friends, boy, is that one. Because I've probably seen that movie now 9 or 10 times, but I hadn't in about 4 or 5 years. And I make it a kind of a duty, an obligation that even if I think I know the movie very well, and some of these I know better than others, that I will watch it again before we do the show. And you see things and you get things and you understand things every single time with a great movie that you didn't see before. And geez, in that movie, we talked a lot last night about the amazing performances of James Earl Jones and of Burt Lancaster. It was Burt Lancaster's last movie, by the way. And how there were little moments in the very few scenes he had in the film that are just magic, because these guys and gals who got it about how you do movie acting, which is very different than stage acting, and really even very different than TV acting, or used to be anyway. When they get it and they're pros, you don't have to be. I'm not suggesting that you watch it standing outside of it saying, oh, look at the technique. Not in the least. You want to enjoy it as an audience, but you do so with these people because of their professionalism and because of their experience. So anyway, enough about all that. So I'm doing that. And I usually am on with you and everybody on Tuesday afternoons at 3:00. And occasionally I've been doing the Monday night, what we jokingly call the secret meeting of the Pro Show. And I'll continue to do all that as long as you all want to hear from me. And if you have questions, we set this up originally to be a Q&A about the movie business, because believe me, 99% of the stuff you read ain't so. Because people either don't know any better or they do know better, but they don't want to tell the truth. So if you have those kind of questions, there you go. Send them in at T3Ponline at yahoo.com. And I'll be happy to answer almost everything. I will not get too personal. I will not get too specific about things that I have done because I have other people to keep confidences for. But anyway, I'm hoping you're enjoying it, and it's nice. Yeah,
Indeed. I wholeheartedly agree. You can go ahead and email your questions right there, as Lou said. And yeah, got some Walter Tomaszewski coming in here with the yes, they thought pinball was gambling. That's why they have flippers on them now. The player has control of the ball. Before flippers, the ball would roll anywhere, and people bet on where.
yeah,
Very interesting stuff.
yeah.
Definitely. Obviously subscribe here for the Jungle Guys, but you can become a member at the Pro Show to receive the Jungle Guys as soon as
That movie, by the way, the pinball movie is called Special When Lit. And if you want to get a jump on us and see it before we talk about it, you could do that too.
There you go.
All these movies are out there for a couple of bucks rental fee, but
right.
Once you find one you like, you should buy it.
Because... Indeed. And you mentioned the Monday show on the Pro Show. That's going to be one I'm hosting. So I am very, very nervous about that. I'm going to be in talks with the Pro in order to make sure our topics are hit and we stay consistent with that Pro Show quality. So that's going to be very, very interesting.
How could they not be if you're involved?
That's a fair
How
point.
could they not be?
It's a fair point, Lou.
Hot dog. The girl's choking to death. You can't go back. Yeah, Nunk. How about that, huh? He's talking about Field of Dreams. And by the way, preview of a coming attraction. That guy was real. Moonlight Graham, the guy who got one inning in one game and wound up becoming a doctor. Real guy. True story. I didn't know that when I saw the movie, but researching it now we did. And we find stuff like that. We discover real things that somehow snuck into these fictional accounts because true life is entertaining too, if you do it right. So do it right and join us here each week, my friends, where you're sure to get a smile with two stranded castaways here on Hollywood Isle.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that was pretty good. Well, I gotta drive back to Arizona tonight. So,
good luck. Good luck. My wife had to go down to Georgia this morning, and she said it took her like 2 hours to get through downtown Atlanta. So it won't be that bad for you. But Sunday afternoons are, and you don't even get a Buc-ee's along the way. Maybe someday.
No, there's a Buc-ee's coming, Lou. There's a Buc-ee's coming in Arizona.
There would be, absolutely.
Yes, I guess so excited.
Get yourself some nuggets and call it a trip well made.
Indeed. Well, when it opens eventually. But I want to go ahead and thank every single one of you for joining us for Hollywood Backlot with Lou and you. Absolutely, we're going to be doing this, next Sunday as well. But 2-3PO Live coming up as well. That's going to be at Tuesday at 3 p.m. I'm joined by Lou as well, talking about theme parks. And, there's a bunch of stuff going on in the theme park world as well. Should be a lot of fun then. And, make sure you subscribe to the channel to keep up with all the news that also should be fun. Thanks, guys. We will see you next week.
Thank you, everyone.